we have a good one because we're going to be here in South Florida. We're going to be at an outdoor tiki bar. Screens all over the place. Good-looking girls. And it made you want to go back and turn the clock back quite a bit because there weren't the percentage of good-looking women when I was at Syracuse University it was mostly early 70s. I got there in 69. The ratio of good-looking girls to total women in the student body was nowhere close to what it is today.
Oh,
is that a fair statement?
Well, for you, yeah. I mean, you were in Syracuse too, so they were covered up the whole freaking year. I mean, FSU was literally renowned, and working out was a big deal at FSU. So, like, the women were in great shape. Plus, you had FAM and then TCC, and the women were fantastic. And it's an era where people were taking care of themselves. That's the other thing too. When you were going to college, we didn't know all the things we knew about nutrition, about exercise. People were very active. It was extremely talented, to say the least.
And you were in the sunshine, Lubie.
Yes.
As you mentioned, this was
the weather helped.
Frozen tundra time. I mean, you were likely to pick up a girl who looked like Jerry Kramer. Just because she might be able to throw a block. We didn't get to see much. The general rule of thumb was if you didn't find somebody to shack up with for the winter at registration, you were going to be pretty much out of luck. You were going to be going to the gym in the cold and trying to play pickup basketball and maybe hoping some of the guys who were on the Syracuse team, whether it was freshman or varsity, were in the gym there so that you could get the feeling that you could have competed. And then how did Jimmy Boeheim overlook you as a walk-on for the squad? They're going crazy. I hear Russ Hodges in my head, man. They're going crazy, and they're going crazy. After the Bobby Thompson home run, great call, one of the classic calls of all time, and not made up, and I don't think it was pre-programmed like Do You Believe in Miracles was with Al Michaels, although we've never really gotten a distinct and definitive answer on that. Well, I think Michaels would be willing to do the show. Good morning, everybody, by the way, and happy Friday to you. It's going to be another great day. It was great last night, Lubie. I'm watching some of these games, and I was about to just pass out. It wasn't like I was glued to the TV the entire time watching college basketball, but I caught pieces of many, many games yesterday. You're flipping around. As soon as they go to a break on one game, boom, you're on True TV. Where is that? What channel is that again? 457?
Yeah.
Not even sure. But it was great, a good action. Really, you talk about a marketing tool for the college game. It did seem like this, Lubie. I hate to say this because I'm a big NBA fan. I don't know that I'm as well. You're not necessarily an NBA fan as much as you're an NBA observer and a huge detractor of NBA players.
I used to be a big fan of all these sports, and in adulthood, plus just the way athletes sort of dick around, whether it's baseball, basketball, college basketball, like the regular seasons just don't feel the same. Like when I was growing up, even into college, even into my 20s, I was religious about all sports. Just now, the regular season, just outside of the NFL, maybe because it's such a shorter season, but the regular season's just sort of waned to me. Like it's just weird.
It does seem to be a burden. You're right.
Yes, they just were weird to me. It doesn't feel like it once did. I'm sure there are people, Ken, our friend Blake, like they can get into college basketball. My buddies will watch NBA all year, and I give them credit. For some reason, it just doesn't do it for me anymore. Like the playoffs, I was watching all day yesterday. Like the tournaments, like I've talked to you for 14 years. Like since I'm 8 years old, the tournaments always held a special place in my heart. So I cannot know any of the players, but I know the teams, I know the coaches, and I know that the theme music. And once you hear that, it's 12:15 Thursday all the way through Sunday. I'm always keeping an eye somewhere on what's going on with the games.
Oh, it was great. I mean, I really found it entertaining, and I viewed it from many different angles and many different venues yesterday, which was also part of the fun, although a lot of people like to be planted right there in the Caesars Palace sports book. They never leave their seat. They're there Vegas time, 9:15, and what was great was just as you were thinking, my God, my eyeballs are bleeding. I'm gargling with Visine, and it's not working, and then here comes another series of games at like 10:45 Eastern time.
Yeah,
and featuring teams that you would want to take a look at and see where they stood in terms of how they were going to enter the tournament and what kind of, I don't know if you would call it a statement, but what kind of presence they were going to establish right away. It's kind of like the first couple of rounds of a boxing match where you're thinking, I can hear it in my head. Virtually every color announcer begins with, well, you know what he really wants to do here, Lubie? He wants to establish the jab. Hey, there's a good one. Who was big on that? Gus Johnson, man. He
Johnson.
wasn't a color analyst, but and his calls of the fights were dreadful, though, where he would just be screaming, Jones, Smith, Jones, Smith. Like, hey, good job there, Gus. How does he get these high-profile jobs? He seems like a really good guy, but the announcing is bordering on horrendous. And I don't know how much of the announcing did you catch? I didn't really catch that much of the announcing because you're just watching games.
Yep.
And I would say this, though, that the college game, with the transitioning into watching multiple college games on the same day, 16 games were on the slate yesterday. And it was fairly chalky. It was. Do you feel a little bit of acid reflux with milk of magnesia type of taste? Like, when did I have that? Oh my god, the chalky feeling. You feel like you literally were just drowning yourself in Pepto Bismol. And it was fairly formful yesterday. It really was. The McNeese game was the big upset, and it kind of fouled up my whole day. I would have had a perfect first day were it not for McNeese beating Clemson. And I was touted on the Clemson by several people saying, oh, well, they have a chance to make the Final Four. They're on a long shot pick. It's like, get the bleep out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
They went down. 13 points at the half. What are you talking about, Lubie? Your kids' team, when you were coaching those 6-year-olds, had 13 points at half.
Yeah, it was.
What kind of representation is that?
It was annoying.
The ACC that dreadful this year, Lubie? Does that give you some fears? Maybe a little bit of agitation and anxiety about your Duke to the Final Four? The ACC was pathetic.
That's something the professor was weird about all year. He's like, my problem with Duke is, yeah, they have a good record. They're beating up on teams, but look who they're beating up on. It's like, yeah, yesterday showed that. Louisville goes down. And again, Creighton is a team that people liked a lot, but it's annoying to see both Louisville and Clemson go down on the same day for an ACC that was already a disaster.
I picked Creighton for only one reason, Lubie.
Okay.
Well, people were speaking highly of Creighton, and Creighton was representative all during the course of the season. Didn't they battle St. John's to the wire in a couple of games? Did they beat St. John's? I think that was one of St. John's losses. So, but I just always remember this guy was kind of had a funky kind of face. He wasn't, necessarily, any kind of abnormal looking guy, but I don't know. I think he had like a big nose. I don't know if you remember a player in the NBA named Neil Johnson. He was with the Knicks.
I know the name.
Neil Johnson, and he went to Creighton, and he was the only basketball player I had heard of that was from Creighton at the time in the NBA. This is going way back. And somehow he was like not quite. I mean, if you could say this, it really kind of illustrates what Neil Johnson was as a basketball player. That Kurt Rambis was athletic compared to Neil Johnson, but they served similar roles. So I always have that in my head because it was John Condon was the PA announcer at Madison Square Garden forever. John X. Condon. And he was great. I mean, none of this yelling and screaming, nothing against any of the guys that are doing it today. Do you always have to follow what's in vogue? Phil Mushnick always says this. He says Vin Scully wouldn't even get a second look if he was auditioning for a Major League Baseball play-by-play job today.
You talked about that with Ian.
Yeah.
Like, because Ian's one of those guys that he's had some great calls in moments that were big. The Kyler Murray, Hail Mary that we play all the time. Like, he's had some of those, but it's on purpose. It's in a moment that deserves it. Like, so that's why we like Ian. I don't want to say he's understated because he's not. He just gets the job done. But we talked about that with him. It's just a different game now.
Yeah.
Ernie Harwells of the world. Good luck.
Literally, Scully would have on his resume tape, pull up a chair and stay a while. And immediately the guy who was handling the auditions would fire that tape into the trash can. Don't ever let this guy apply again. Imagine it. How many years did he do Dodger baseball? A long, long time there.
6 years or something.
Jerry Dockett and many other color analysts that he had. It was the guy who was a TV guy, and he got the color job there for a while. And Ross something. It wasn't Ross Morton. He was a track announcer. And he became like a side guy for Vin Scully, and then he did a couple of innings, and it was atrocious. I mean, a stat machine. But, the old school stuff wouldn't work anymore. So the Screamers are very much on display. I didn't really catch a lot of sound in yesterday's games, and there was only one massive upset. It was, I mean, could you call it a massive upset? 7.5-point dog. McNeese ruined my perfect first day bracket.
Yes.
And I saw, now what percentage is this? Is it 20 million people that enter the ESPN bracket pool?
Probably, I would
Is it
think more than
2
that.
million? It's not 2 million, right? It's like
No,
20.
no. I would think it's more than that, honestly.
Well, they had 25,000, something in excess of 25,000 perfect scores, perfect brackets on the first day, 16-0.
I'm saying to pick because that's the thing
So what
is
is
that
that? Is that like what?
there's a lot of
In
people.
1,000?
I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
something like that. 1 in 10,000? I
yeah,
think
yeah.
it's
I
1 in
mean,
10,000.
again, McNeese was not one of those 12-5s, whatever happened. McNeese, no one talked about. I didn't hear anyone mentioning the name McNeese State. And again, it was a combination. People were very high in Clemson, and McNeese wasn't one of. It wasn't Drake. It wasn't one of those mid-major schools that anyone talked about. Like, so unless you went to goddamn McNeese State or just hate Clemson with a passion, like I don't know how you would have gotten to that. I don't know how anyone would have picked that. Like, I really don't.
Coach is gone. He's already been named the head coach at North Carolina State. Will Wade seemed like a real true blue gentleman, the kind of guy that you would want to. I'd want to send my kid to play for him. It seemed like that type of guy, and yet you're looking at a guy. He's coaching a team. He's all immersed and entrenched in the history and the fact that McNeese had never won. Now it's a very small sample size because they don't make the tournament that often. They were 0-3 previously in NCAA tournament games, so this was a first for them. They get their first tournament victory, and at the same time, first inside the round of 64, because obviously they had to win a game to get in there, right? McNeese was in the play-in game, were they not, just a couple of nights ago? So Will Wade, who's a goner, was all about the history, the illustrious history that was made last night, and at the expense of Clemson, who I actually had winning another round.
Yeah.
So that was the only pain I felt yesterday. A lot of dicey games. Michigan, who I have going all the way to the finals of their bracket, of their region, and losing to Michigan State at that point, where Michigan State then moves on to the Final Four. Michigan really struggled in the second half and nearly got surpassed in their ball game against UC San Diego, who was one of those cuties that people like. But in general, Lubie, it was a form festival. Now, I'm thinking that probably changes a little bit today, and I hope that it does.
Yeah, usually one of the days is like, wow, what the hell? And one of the days is chalky. So it probably will be the reverse. Like, day one chalky today will probably be the day where we're like, what the hell?
All right, so who or what impressed you? I mean, there were several blowout games. Houston, who I have winning it all.
Houston.
They win by 40.
Whoa.
St. John's and a friend of mine, Mike Jones, on our handicapping show, Bury Your Bookie, came up with a real good play on the St. John's game, and this comes from an informed observation, Booby, and that's what you like when somebody gives you a pick and somebody says, "Hey, I love so and so." Okay, based on what? Is it based on something that you read? Is it based on something that somebody else told you? Are you just giving me the horse that the other guy that never picks a winner in his lifetime gave you when he was sitting down there at the bar and asked if you could buy him a drink, even though it's dollar beer day? Some complete loser. But when you we're looking at the a series of games that you were betting yesterday, that it really it wasn't that tough to decipher. Clemson, though, was touted to me, and I had him winning a couple of games. And other than that, not too bad. Arkansas with Calipari, I thought he was going to win that game against Bill Self. And wow, Lubie, did the argument pop up again? You tell me. I know you're convinced because you had firsthand experience with this that Bill Self is wearing a hairpiece.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
I mean, why are we obsessed with this?
I wasn't until we met him in person. You and young Chris back in the day thought it was the funniest thing. I was like, the dude's hair is real. Like Visser Mama, we had Visser Mama, Visser Mama on the show, and she's like, "You doofus, it's real. I know the man. I've known him 30 years." So I didn't really go along with it until we saw him in the Final Four, and I never knew this part of the system, right? Like I always looked at, does it look, because you get it all a real bad hairpiece, you can tell. So I'm like, it doesn't look like
this isn't like Maury and Goodfellas.
Exactly. But you always thought, you're like, yeah, but look at the back though.
The back is a key. And the way it's parted is another key.
When it never grows, it never changes ever. He's been coaching Kansas for 20-something years. He's been coaching. He was at Illinois. He's been coaching 30-something years.
Is the same. Does he get a haircut every day? What the hell?
Never changed. His hair's never changed. So like we were at the Final Four and he was right there. I was like, all right, screw it. And I got right behind him.
You almost pulled it off.
I was right there, and like you could see, I'm like, holy crap!
That little space
It
in
was
the back.
parted. It wasn't attached to his head, and it wasn't like he had a mullet. I'm
Right.
like, okay, yeah, it's not real. Like, there's no way that's
All right,
real.
well, he might want to shave his head after yesterday. He loses to Calipari. I'm not sure. Are Bill Self and Calipari close buddies? For some reason, I want to think not.
Probably they crossed paths over the years. I mean,
There's a great fraternity, it seems like. Is there a brotherhood among coaches? Yeah, some people you can't see fitting in. Do people want to hang out with Danny Hurley? I don't know. Do they resent Patino's success in so many different places, in spite of the fact that it did seem like maybe he was bending in excess of the guidelines and parameters of NCAA regulations at different times? Kelvin Sampson of Houston certainly fits that bill. Although when you look at the indiscretions of these guys, unless they involve some kind of sexual allegations and intimations about a coach messing with like a student or whatever. And yet, that being said, no, Jimmy Boeheim, he did he marry a student? He's still married to the woman.
no, she wasn't a student.
Was she a
He
teacher?
was- I don't know if she was related to school at all. I just know she was vastly younger than he was at the time. But I think she was in like her 40s and he was in like his 60s or something. Like it wasn't.
I think he was in his 60s and she was a freshman.
Yeah, I don't think it's that gross.
But unless it's something that really is, outside the boundaries of human decency, I don't know, making a couple of telephone calls to a kid, how does that really stack up in terms of being an egregious violation and excessive violation of rules? And when you look at what's going on today, where clearly, I mean, there was John L. Davis, right?
Yes.
From FAU, who was a key guy down the stretch for Arkansas yesterday. A guy that they roped away from lowly FAU in terms of NIL money. And here's John Calipari coming in. You don't think that Calipari went there because he knew that somebody was going to be backing this Arkansas Razorback team with boatloads of cash?
Oh, no. Arkansas, that's Walmart money.
Yeah.
Like, literally the Walmart family.
Every time you buy a bagel at Walmart,
Yeah.
you're helping Calipari win a tournament game.
I never understood because they would always get these coaches, but they never won. And I was like, Ken, I understand the SEC, they have money, but who? He's like, Walmart. I'm like, what? He's like, they literally, because, Jerry Jones is Arkansas and he loves Arkansas. I'm like, but that can't be enough. He's like, no, Walmart. He's like, the freaking Walmart families in Arkansas. They literally live for Arkansas. So it's like, oh, there you go.
Your brother can easily justify paying Calipari's lofty and hefty salary demands, and they can get John L. Davis to probably offer him like $1 million to come from the campus of FAU to go to Arkansas. Not exactly the kind of choice that you would make as a student, Lubie. You're in Boca Raton, Florida, and all of a sudden you're going to go to some hillbilly town as a young black man in the middle of Arkansas. Not exactly the kind of move that you would normally make. I mean, if you're looking at the Barron's Guide of colleges to go to, you're not thinking, you know what? Let me leave the beach here and go to Arkansas. Get out of here.
No, I've been doing it, but a college kid going from no Dusty May to Calipari. Like, I saw his face. I'm like, I know that dude. And then they're like, John L. Davis. I'm like, oh my God, that's friggin' John L. Davis.
Yeah. How many years is this kid in school, too?
He was at the freaking restaurant with us when Dusty May was here. He was one of the dudes that was just hanging out.
I would have to say, too, Dusty May had his kids really, you thought, wow, these are really young gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
They were very polished, and he got lucky yesterday to escape after blowing out the opposition, San Diego, in the first half. They almost got caught in the second half, and that would have upset your bracket. That's for sure, Lubie.
Yes.
So hopefully you guys all survived. It was fairly chalky. Kansas becomes only the second team to be a preseason AP number 1 to get knocked out in the first round of the tournament. Now, have there ever been? I want to say that has it happened where a preseason number 1 didn't even make the tournament?
I feel like it has, but I don't know.
So is there a parenthetical? Is there an asterisk around this particular distinction, which is very, very much based on infamy? But they become the second team to do that, Lubie. You know who the first team was?
Oh, good.
Kansas.
Oh.
They did it, I think, in 2005. They were the preseason number 1 and lost in the first round.
Yeah, they were a 2 seed with I think it was Self at the beginning or Roy Williams.
So yeah, they ended up not exactly distinguishing themselves in any kind of a positive light there. Although close game, it could have gone either way. Arkansas kind of broke it open at the end there, and John L. Davis very coolly swished 4 free throws at critical moments in the final couple of minutes of the game, and so that was nice to see. And you're thinking, I was just like you. I've seen that kid before. I knew he was on Arkansas.
I didn't know. I forgot that. I know Golden obviously went to Michigan. I knew a few followed May, and I remember a couple got big money to not go with May. I forgot that he was at Arkansas. Like I just remember. I'm like, I know and I think he's lost some weight too. He looks thinner. I'm like, I know that face. Like I know that dude. And then because we saw him in person, and they're like John L. Davis. I'm like, oh my god, John L. Davis.
It's a kid that you would have to say he was the
Huge.
most responsible for FAU making it to the Final Four. Just 2 years ago. All right, so Creighton Louisville was a little bit dicey. I did pick Creighton in that game. Louisville had a really good season, redeemed themselves extremely well. Presley, I believe, is the name of the coach. And no, we had that yesterday. It's Kelsey is the name of the coach. Kelsey is the name of the coach. And Louisville had a great season, but they failed in the spot against Creighton. Arkansas, Kansas was a slight surprise, not much of one. Drake over Mizzou, Jim Larinaga. How could you possibly go against Jim Larinaga? Came on the show a couple of times here. He was on our conversation show, and then again with us just Tuesday morning this week. And he was talking about Drake. Although I don't know, did you think Drake was that impressive in this win against Mizzou? Now that they beat a tough team that had a real good season, another SEC team, right, going down Missouri, and I wasn't blown away by Drake, were you? I mean, I don't think I have him in my bracket winning the second round, but and I would stick with that based on what I saw, unless they show vast improvement from one game to the next, which we shall see. A lot of times, too, teams like Michigan that survived that game, it happens every year with a team that wins it all, so I wouldn't give up hope. I wouldn't throw in a towel, Lubie. Where you definitely, and anybody that we talk to about the tournament would say this, that usually to win the 6 games that it takes to win the championship, you're going to have one game where you absolutely luck out and survive a scare. So maybe that was that game for Michigan. We shall see. It's 16 more today, Lubie. Are you ready for that?
Oh, yeah.
Are you ready?
I love this. This is my favorite.
16 more games today. It does appear like it might be, I was thinking yesterday, there was no reason to really get cute in a lot of these games. And 10 versus 7, you wouldn't consider that to be any monumental upset, or that you should immediately declare yourself a genius for coming up with a 10 versus 7. I guess Drake was an 11 versus 6.
Yeah, I like Drake.
So, and Grand Canyon is the biggest long shot we stepped out on Cinderella's, but they're in action today, right, Grand Canyon? So we'll see what happens. But you do have some picks. I end up going with Colorado State. A lot of people like Colorado State over Memphis, Penny Hardaway's team.
Yeah, well, Ken talked a lot about Colorado State the last few weeks, so that made me feel like maybe they'll make a move.
Vandy, I liked Vandy over St. Mary's. Vandy with all those upsets they pulled off during the regular season.
Yeah, I don't know.
St. Mary's a very good team out of the West Coast Conference. Beat Gonzaga a couple of times during the regular season. Lost in the tournament finale. So they didn't get the automatic bid. They get an at-large bid, well-deserved. Vanderbilt, though, was knocking off some heavyweights towards the end of the year, Lubie. So I gave them a shot here today. So that'll be a game that I watch with some interest. And then you have New Mexico Marquette, Richie Pitino, trying to make it's amazing that with a name like Pitino, you have to make a name for yourself. And he's been around a long time, Richie Pitino.
Yeah, he was at, FIU? Or FAU years ago?
Yeah, I believe he was FIU, and then where did he go after that?
He was at Minnesota
for years.
Yeah. And some stuff happened where I guess he sort of struggled and lost a job there. He's had a weird course. I forgot he was still coaching. And Andy was talking about him weeks ago that he was doing a great job, and I was like, where the hell is he?
No, New Mexico looms as a threat. Marquette was a good team during the course of the regular season also. And then you have North Carolina, Ole Miss. How do you feel about that one? You still feel comfortable? I picked North Carolina in that game.
I'm not comfortable. I hate Carolina. Again, the team that is, you should never get in. They don't deserve to step on a basketball court ever.
Good theory.
That team wins. And that team gets especially a team with a veteran like RJ Davis. And we've seen guys like that can take over, and he did in the playing game. Like that's the kind of team I could see winning a game, if not two. Again, I wouldn't be shocked if they lose. They were in the plan for a reason. They struggled for 3/4 of the year, but they played better down the stretch, and they are a prideful program that became a national joke, right? Like they were the program that everyone was like, "Oh my God, how are they in the cheating, Bubba the cheater?" And he probably did cheat. Fine. They then kick the crap out of their playing game. So now they have some steam. So like I could see them winning and even winning a second game just because of a pure screw you.
Old man Mo. Old man Mo. You want that momentum on your side. They got a little bit of momentum going. So that's certainly a plus. All right, a couple of other things. The professor's going to join us here, and we'll have a big board with the professor. Always a highlight on the program. Last week's mockery of his own, usually, very, what would you say?
Subversive. He's subversive. He's not. I don't think he's mean. I think he likes to push the envelope, and he did it the other way last week. He was very conservative.
The usual profanity laced, sexual innuendo. Not even innuendo, just blatant sexual
Yeah,
illustrations. Yeah, we weeded him out, and he did a great job last week. I would imagine we get something in between this week, which would be great. A couple other things in the NBA. How about Bronny James, man? 17 points. He also had rebounds and assists that were impressive in a Lakers game where they had no Luka and no LeBron. So when you see James in the box score there, that's Bronny, Lubie. Bronny, the guy that everybody said cannot play. See, you can't be terrible, Lubie, and I don't care what the opposition is. It's NBA basketball. I don't think you can be a terrible player and get 17 points in an NBA game by pure accident, can you?
I don't know. We've seen
I
a
don't
lot of
care who you are.
Score points. I look again. No one said he's horrendous in the world of basketball. We just said he didn't belong in the NBA now. Like again, the kid has genes. He was, I mean, the 5-star thing was overrated, but he was a legit 4-star talent, and he was a kid that people thought before the heart thing could be a first-round pick. Like he has talents. He plays good defense. He can shoot the ball. It's just he's really undersized for what he does. Like if you're gonna be the 3-and-D dude, you need to be Bruce Bowen. You need to be 6'7", 6'8". Like he's like 6'3" or 6'2". Like it's hard to be 6'2" and a 3-and-D guy. But
or be a lights out shooter.
Yeah. But especially exactly. That's the whole Booker discussion we had where I thought Booker was short. Booker's actually taller, so it's a lot easier to get your shot off. Like, but again, it's not like he never could play in a game and score. Like I never thought he could never score 20 in a game. He's LeBron's friggin' kid. He's been playing ball his whole life. It's just, do you use a draft pick on that kid and give him real minutes in his rookie year? That's the debate that was there that I thought was sort of stupid.
Probably didn't belong on the roster at the beginning of the season. Was doing well. His G League numbers were representative of somebody that might be on the cusp of making it and breaking into the NBA, or if that he did get a call up, it wasn't an atrocity. And then he goes for 17 in his game last night for the Lakers. So that was good. Celtics sold for $6.1 billion. Now the largest franchise fee in history. I would imagine, Professor, were you in on that bid to buy the Celtics?
Oh, yeah.
You love
to torch him.
Yeah, that's what I did. I bought.
You took that Foundry money and put it right into the Celtics?
That's what I did. Yeah.
He's torching him to the ground.
I'm trying to imagine the escalation of the value of these franchises. I mean, I went to, when I was at the Cuse, one of the guys that was in my class was Harry Mangorian Jr., who was the son of Harry Mangorian, who at the time owned the Boston Celtics. And I would imagine, what do you think Mangorian got for the Celtics? I was going to look that up before the show, and I didn't get.
When did they sell? Were they the group that sold back?
I
in the
mean,
early
it's had to be in the 70s, right?
Oh, then I don't know.
What was an NBA franchise? It was close to worthless back then. What are you talking about?
I mean, it would have been still in the millions, but it would have probably been like in the low 8 figures. I don't really know. I mean, look, the thing with the Celtics is obviously, along with the Lakers, the two foundational franchises in the history of the NBA. So you're probably paying, some, a premium price.
Sure.
For that sort of value.
It's like a vintage car.
All right.
Or, some rare piece of art where.
Well, it's not just like it's a vintage car. It's like one of the famous vintage cars.
Yeah.
Right? It's like a Shelby or something like that. There's only so many limited of these icons. Hey, look, I would say on the short list of, the most iconic franchises in the in North American sports. You'd probably look at like the Cowboys and the Packers in the NFL. You look at the Celtics and the Lakers in the NFL, in the NBA. Certainly the Yankees and the Red Sox, and then I don't know the Canadians, I guess, for Canadian soccer. Honestly, are any, like the Canadians as a franchise are in such disrepair and have been
Maple
for
Leafs.
so long. Yeah, but when was the last time they were any good?
A win. That's the point. Like at least
Wow.
win. Celtics are a banner.
Like
franchise.
I know the Montreal Canadiens have the history, but like your country's teams never win the Stanley Cup ever. So is that history without any modern support lead to that sort of brand value? So that one would maybe won't be interesting.
The Cowboys are weird because it's the NFL, it's Jerry Jones, or even though they haven't won in 30 years, they still have this weird aura around them. But I wonder in other sports, do you still retain your value just because you won 30 titles 40 years ago? Like,
again, I think it goes beyond value. It becomes sort of like a premium brand that, like I don't really know if, for example, Hermes purses are actually 5 times more valuable than any other purses on earth. I don't know, honestly, if like a Louis Vuitton purse is somehow intrinsically more value than just, the regular leathered purse women buy at Macy's or whatever. But, again, there's a premium brand attached to those kind of things. And I think in sports, the Celtics are certainly one of those franchises that have a premium attached to their brand. And obviously, the recent turnaround and championship doesn't hurt that. If anything, it probably enhances it further.
Good time to sell. Yeah, $15 million. Lubie looked it up. Harry Mangorian sold the Celtics for $15 million. And surprisingly, that was all the way in 1983. Now, let's not forget when the Heat in 1988-89 came in as an expansion franchise. The tab on the expansion franchise, the fee there was $50 million.
Okay, so that's not that, again, I think I read somewhere that yesterday that the previous sale was like in the late 90s or early 2000. It was for 350. Okay.
360 million in 2002. That's still crazy, though, in 20 years to make that.
$6.1 billion.
Honestly, it's because morons keep giving the NBA, morons at ESPN and now NBC or whoever keep giving the NBA these outrageous television contracts that the ratings nowhere near justify. And it again, the latest one is still true, even though the ratings are absolutely trash. So, hard to explain, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't have a good I guess people really love Kendrick Perkins and the
just listening to him and looking at him perform, you think, wow, that guy, what an expert. A couple of other things, and we were going to get to the professor, some college plays for today and for the weekend, perhaps. Well, we don't know a whole of the matchups yet, but we do have half of them. Ovechkin scores a goal last night. Washington Capitals continue their fine play. He's 6 off the record of the great one, and 7 off 6 off tying the record, 7 off passing it.
See, all-time goals, career.
All-time goals, regular season. Unbelievable. And good tennis match last night. 2 young stars. They clashed. Actually, it was in the first round. João Fonseca of Brazil and Lerner Ten of he's an American. These 2 kids have been putting on a show early in 2025, and they squared off in the first round at the Miami Open. And it was a hell of a match. And you would swear that you were in Brazil. Here's an American kid in Miami. And the crowd, I would say, was 99% all over. Is there a huge Brazilian contingent here in South Florida?
Yes.
Have you never been to Deerfield Beach?
They're playing soccer as if it was beach volleyball.
Yes. Yeah, they do that volleyball with your feet thing. It's like all they play. You don't see anybody playing volleyball on the volleyball nets.
Yeah, there's
tons of let's be honest,
futile endeavor.
They are wacky about their Brazilian sports. Like it doesn't really matter.
Nuts.
I remember going to the predecessor of the F1 races, the Miami Grand Prix or whatever the hell it was called. And there was somebody was a Brazilian, there was Emerson Fittipaldi or whatever. Okay. These people were going nuts for like a guy and if you remember the Miami Grand Prix was like a road course.
Yes.
So they weren't even driving that fast. They were, going nuts for a dude who was coming by like once every 10 minutes driving 80 miles an hour. It wasn't like that big a deal. And then what was his name? It was like the late 90s or early 2000s. Gustavo Kuerten, when he
Yes.
first got good, sort of broke out there. Like his crowds were like watching a fashion model show on like
he was great on the red clay.
He'd be at like the French or
He
some
was great.
big major open, and the crowd would be chicks in thongs.
What was his nickname? Gugu, something like that. Gustavo.
Guga, maybe, I don't remember.
All right, we got to run for a quick break. We'll come back, the professor, and a little breakdown on what's going to go on. Am I mistaken, or have you not been absolutely on fire the last couple of weeks on Bury Your Bookie? You rattled off like 9 games last week.
Doing pretty well, yeah.
I mean, as far as I could tell, maybe one or 2 losses.
I think we were like 7-2.
Beautiful.
8-1. I can't remember.
Look at yesterday's big plays.
3 over 2 weeks.
And and unfortunately, I meant to get up early and give him to the show, but I did not do that. I slept in, and we did pretty well on day. We've actually done really well, like 3 or 4 years in a row now on day 1 of the tournament. We sort of owned it the last 4 years. So hopefully that'll roll on through today. So we'll see.
Today looks like more of a challenge. All right, coming back with the professor and also a big board, some college plays in a moment. Now that.
The time.
It's 8:39.
Hey folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched. Steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-90.
The world, I mean, if my point was ever going to be embellished and going to be proven true, the world has gotten me sugar now.
Grab a bagel and a schmear, plus some Defo and Lubie. Welcome back to the Defo Show.
All right, welcome back to the show. We want to dive into it here as we have another 16 games on tap today, and then the action doesn't stop there because you'll have 8 games going on Saturday, 8 more on Sunday. So euphoria for college basketball fans and freaks like the professor who loves it, embraces it, lives it, and wagers his money on it. So, Prof, let's dive right into it. Today's action and what you foresee coming up in the tournament, some games that people can embrace and actually take the rubber band off the bankroll on.
I think we got a preview yesterday of what, I mean, and of course, now when you don't get like a series of 14 and 13 seeds winning, everybody bitches. I think we got a preview yesterday that it's going to be a very good Saturday. As you saw, both 8 seeds coming out, Creighton and Gonzaga, really look like they're both prepped to give the 2 1 seeds that played yesterday. That would be Auburn and Houston, a really difficult game in round 2. And we'll see if that continues today, if there's maybe a little bit more balance, up and down through the top 8 or top 9 seeds, as opposed to, just a series of burials. As even your St. John's team got pushed pretty well for a half there, turned around in the second half. But
St. John's sluggish starts. I started to mention this earlier. My friend Mike Jones, good handicapper, he bet Omaha in the first half, getting 11 and a hook.
Again,
half because they always get off to a slow start, St. John's.
We've talked about it. If you get in the Ken Palm rankings, they're just not that great. They are elite, absolute elite defensively, but they're just not necessarily a super efficient offensive team. Anyway, looking at today's matchup, and I agree with you, I think it's a little bit of a tougher card than yesterday's was. But I do think there's some spots here. And much like yesterday, where I thought Creighton was one of the best plays of the day, just kicking the day off, I think you've got a potential for maybe another one here. with Mississippi State and Baylor. I like Mississippi State laying the 1.5 in what looks to be a very close matchup. Number one, just in terms of, and you see this a lot, who's got the guy in the NCAA tournament? Who's got the one player who can post a huge game? And that's definitely Mississippi State with Hubbard. He's one of the best scoring guards in the country. Averaged almost 8 to 20 a game, 18.7 points a game. They've also got a nice big, and they've got a lot of overall team size, which I think will play big in this game. Murphy, I think, will be able to control the boards like he has pretty consistently throughout SEC play. Now, Norchad Omier, who we're, of course, familiar with down here, has really been on a tear rebounding the basketball the last couple of weeks. So we'll see how that one works out. But I think Mississippi State's overall size will control the board. Among two teams, honestly, neither are particularly great shooting teams, so rebounding will be crucial in this one. You look at their rankings, both Baylor's 167th in the country in shooting percentage. Mississippi State's 153rd. So obviously the board's going to be crucial here. And I think Mississippi State's overall size up and down the line will play a big role in that. So we like Mississippi State early in the noon slot. The Memphis, Colorado State team, I heard Lubie talking about riding Colorado State because I had talked about them in the last few weeks. And obviously they have an exceptional player themselves, the Rams. I believe he's if he wasn't already named the WAC player of the year, he's not. That, of course, would be Nick Clifford. And one of the more dynamic scorers you're going to see in the tournament. But I actually like Memphis in this one. I think Memphis' athletic ability will probably overwhelm Colorado State a little bit. The Rams obviously did get off to a phenomenal finish of the season. But again, you sort of have to question the competition as you look at it. What they beat Boise and Utah a couple times each. I don't know that Colorado State's overall athletic ability is going to be on par with Memphis's, and Memphis is very good at playing a hot pace. So, like Memphis a little bit there. Also, in that
what was the line on that one, Professor?
That would be Colorado State -1 and a hook.
Okay.
Also in that 3 to 4 window, you got, I think Vanderbilt's a very live dog, catching 4.5 from St. Mary's. St. Mary's is a nice team. But I think, again, and they're reflected both in the number of seeds and the way they were ranked very high. Obviously the SEC teams come into this game super battle tested. St. Mary's, honestly, did not play the kind of schedule you've seen the Gales usually play, particularly in the out-of-conference period, which means when you get down to it, really their battle test in the season was Gonzaga, which, in the regular season they won twice, but in the last game they lost. And honestly, I don't know that St. Mary's pacing here is going to bother Vanderbilt that much. Vanderbilt is not necessarily a high-flying team in terms of scoring themselves. So I think they'll be comfortable playing a game in the 50s or 60s. And again, for a team that St. Mary's that frequently wins with, 58, 60, 62 points, 4.5 points is a bigger spread than you think it might be just on first instinct. So we like Vandy and the points there. And then going against a team we like, but we think they've got a bad matchup, particularly when you look at the spread, and that is Grand Canyon catching 10.5 for Maryland. It's a very good Grand Canyon team, won their conference tournament, and what some might call a little bit of an upset over Utah Valley. Again, do I think Maryland will win this game? Probably, but 10.5 is just too many points against a Grand Canyon team that not only won an NCAA tournament game last year, but brought back, I believe it was 6 of their top 8 players. So you're talking about an experienced tournament underdog there. So we like Grand Canyon catching 10.5. And then you get into the night slate, which I think is pretty tough, honestly. I might look at Marquette laying 3.5 to New Mexico. Now, and Marquette, of course, finished slow like they always do, but this might be a good matchup for them. People are looking at the matchup of the point guards. Cam Jones for Marquette, what's his name, Dent for New Mexico are both the key players. Cam Jones is just a better scorer, and he's better physically. He's a much bigger kid. So I think Marquette may get a fortunate matchup here because New Mexico, another high-flying team, wants to run up down the court and score. Difficult to beat Marquette. That's their natural style, doing that. I view that one as more marginal, but again, I think most of the night matchups are marginal. So if you're just looking for stuff to do, that would be one. Another one, Liberty catching 6.5 from Oregon. I'm a little confused on this one because I want to go heavy on Liberty in this spot. One of the best offensive teams in terms of efficiency in the country. I think they might have led the country in turnover rate. Their fewest turnovers in the country, I believe. If not, they're like top 2 or top 3. Don't quote me on that one. But Oregon seems to, under Dana Altman, with all those defenses they like to mix in, overperform in the tournament on a pretty much annual basis, which scares me a little bit about that one, although I do still lean towards Liberty catching the 6.5.
All right, excellent. And if all of that, I mean, I hate to feel this way because of my deep.
Oh, and by the way, we
yeah.
do have some lines for Saturday. We got some early numbers.
Okay.
So let's look at those real quick while we got them available. Number one, again, I don't mean to be this guy because Defo really doesn't follow college basketball that much, but when he gets into it, he gets into it heavy. But I got to take Arkansas in the 7.5, which seems to be the early line over St. John's. I was very impressed with the Razorbacks. They did go into an offensive lull in the second half there, but then they closed very strong. And again, 7.5, pretty big number for, a St. John's team that does at times struggle a bit offensively. Creighton catching 8.5 from Auburn. I think this is going to be with Cockbrenner in the middle playing Broom, who's obviously Auburn's key piece. I think it's going to be a real, and that, by the way, was not a sexual reference. The kid's name is Cockbrenner.
All right.
Just so we know, just so we're clear on that. I don't get accused of things I don't do.
Oh, it wasn't just you.
Anyway,
a broad
we're just clearing that was not like a Pornhub name. The kid's name is Ryan Cockbrenner.
Okay.
Anyway, Creighton catching 8.5 from Auburn. I definitely like the Blue Jays in that matchup. And then we're going to ride the Jimmers. I'm very impressed with all the Jimmers. You got Headband Jimmer. You got Greek Jimmer. You got Khalil Green Jimmer. That's the white kid with the black guy name. I believe his name is Trevin. You got Black Headband Jimmer. You got Tall Black Jimmer. Like all the Jimmers, I thought played really good yesterday. I was impressed by them against a tough defensive team in VCU. Now they're getting into a shootout game with Wisconsin. And again, BYU is one of the better shooting teams I've seen this year. So we like the Jimmers catching 1.5 from Wisconsin.
All right. A lot of good stuff there. If you're accurate, and I was starting to say that with my deep-rooted respect for your college basketball acumen, I will be looking like the character actor Vincent Schiavelli with the hair disheveled and that
no
long
idea
drawn
who
face.
that is.
My bracket will be destroyed if you're right about a lot of these games. So we'll see. I'm on your side on a couple, but not enough to make me feel comfortable about going into the action today. All right, let's do a big board. Classic, of course, last week. And most everybody is citing your battle of mascots as the guy that selects the games by choosing which mascot is superior. Is the most annoying or among the most annoying.
Apparently, a Blue Jay can outfight a Cardinal.
Yeah, no.
I mean, I view them both as sissy birds. So, like, I wouldn't even know where to go.
Big board of MLBs with the baseball season on the horizon. Very appropriate.
Baseball
topic.
season is right around the corner, and thanks to what the hell is it? Is it Jeremy Shap's kid, the little annoying one that does all the finance stuff. We have, and he's one of the major ones on Twitter that pushes out all the new food items for the year. So a shout out to Mike Mayo, who is exactly the kind of disgusting pig who would go
and try this
and eat all the worst of the ballpark food.
Yeah.
If you remember last year, the Marlins' big rollout was all you can eat, and it was just a list of foods that if you ate more than one of them, you'd probably be sick to your stomach.
Nachos, hot dogs, and
arsenic pie. Yeah, that'll go.
Yeah. So we have compiled a list of Major League Baseball's food atrocities for 2025.
All right,
if you are a disgusting glutton who, wants to make sure no women will sit near you at a baseball game,
Or that the
Here is
likelihood you were ever in the presence of a woman was probably slim.
some of the places you can go throughout Major League Baseball. And it starts with, I'm assuming inspired by one of our favorites, and that is the New York Mets are serving 12 hot dogs in what appears to be a helmet-themed dog bowl.
Oh, Jesus.
And I am sure that this was designed and created with Fatso McGatorface at first base.
In mind, Alonzo.
Look at that thing.
Probably, I assume that there's one of these just sitting by his spot on the bench. That like
Is Joey
That's-
Chestnut
that's
likely to
how
be the
this
guy in
started.
Tourney
Is
line?
just
I mean,
12
what
hot
are we
dogs
talking about?
served in a dog bowl.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, Alonzo's back in town. We need something for him, and we don't have a
Oh,
container with enough hot dogs to fill it up to last him the game. So let's just make a dog bowl that looks sort of like a batting helmet and sell it for It's actually a pretty good deal.
It's a good
And
price.
the list price or so is $14.99 for a dog bowl worth of hot dogs.
How many hot dogs again?
12.
12. So
12 dogs for
Yeah, it's like a
14? No.
$1.25 a dog, something like
How
that.
cold are
Great.
you eating hot dogs?
That, which of course tells
That's
you the
probably
quality,
cheaper than buying a single dog.
that tells you the quality of the hot dog they're serving in this particular.
Although I will vouch, I mean, among my
Although
favorite
really,
hot
if you're
dogs,
eating it out of a dog bowl, how selective can you be
if
about
you're
your,
eating it off the floor would be the next step. But I can vouch for it. I mean, I don't know if it's changed, City Field, modern times, but among my favorite hot dogs always was the Shea Stadium Dirty Water dog. That
I
came
mean, if
directly
they're
from
selling it by the dozen in a dog bowl, Defo,
Yeah.
I'm assuming the percentage of pig anus in these particular hot dogs is very, very high.
All right, that was
I
boiling.
think at that price, you have to assume that you are getting all the parts of a hog that you would never want to eat.
Yeah, never want.
A lot of eyeballs in those hot dogs.
That's
Oh, good.
made that popular, though. I don't know that this is true, but I want to say that at a very early stage of concession development and evolution, they were serving ice cream in the little batting helmet. And it was an extreme. I mean, they were selling you like a half a cent worth of ice cream for about $4.50 back in the day when that was a lot of money.
Oh, I
And,
remember
and
when
they might have been the first to serve it in the little batting helmet.
I remember when Dairy Queen used to do that back in the 70s, and you keep going back and back to try to get all the helmets, and then you'd also gain like 75 pounds over the course of the summer, so that you
All
can
right,
collect all 32
That's number
helmets.
5, Pete Alonso.
And that takes us to number 4. And I'm warning you ahead of time, if you're watching the show today with any small children in the room, encourage them to leave right now. And that is not because of cursing or any of this alleged sexual stuff that I supposedly do,
Yeah.
but because
Well, we all were guilty of that.
but
Trust me.
because of number 4, which is that
Wrong. I enjoyed it.
the Kansas City Royals have slaughtered Cookie Monster and are selling his cream-filled corpse to children.
What the hell is that, man?
This is the Royal Blue Whoopie Pie introduced by the Kansas City Royals, new for this season. And again, to me, it looks like they beheaded Cookie Monster and are just selling pieces of his bloated corpse.
That looks gross. It's kind of like when
Kansas
you
City
put
Royal fans.
you'd put the moon pie, you couldn't find it, and then
You sat
got
on
out of the car, you realize that you sat on it. That's
Yeah.
Again, that's part of it. And it is something called blue velvet cake, which I assume means it's red velvet cake, except blue, which means it tastes like chocolate, but has been dyed the color of something found inside a meteorite that is clearly not fit for human consumption. Nothing about this looks visually appealing. Again, about as disgusting an item to eat in 95-degree weather that I can possibly
Exactly. Like, I don't want that.
And high humidity.
Outdoor stadium in the Midwest in the middle of summer.
Yeah.
Let's have a blue whoopie pie.
That's a lot.
Having attended games in the dead of summer in St. Louis, yeah, that thing's not going to last long.
Again,
better keep the wrapping around it, son.
and just the visual impression of it looks like they killed Cookie Monster and are now selling parts of his corpse.
Like that.
All right, that's number 4. The Royals slaughtering Cookie Monster. The weird foods that are going to be at ballparks introduced this year.
But speaking of things with a disturbing color pattern, that takes us to the Seattle Mariners' new menu and their "What's Up Blue Corn Dog."
What?
The hell
Now,
is that?
first of all, This is
Why?
allegedly, if you look at the
Green.
color, this is allegedly Mariners blue, which I've seen the Mariners uniforms and it's sort of recognizable as blue or teal
Yes.
Thought it
or
was like
whatever
a
you want to
green.
Kind of looks like Defoe's shirt, but this thing looks green, which again is probably reflective of the color it turns your intestines the second you eat it.
It's like a St. Patty's Day thing.
And it looks kind of like that would be sweet with the green fuzzy stuff, but apparently those are crunches on top. Again, I don't want to eat a bunch of green crunch crap on top of a corn dog. It's not like corn dogs are the most reliable food to begin with.
Yes.
Particularly when served at a ballpark. I don't want it rolled in a bunch of crunchy green crap. And again, do you remember when Burger King sold the Whopper that was turning people's
Yeah, I couldn't. Yeah, it was
yeah,
perfect. Yeah.
turning people's leavings green? This looks like someone just stuck a stick in the middle of those things and decided to serve it at Mariners games.
And they're known for their weird food. Isn't that the place where they have the chocolate-covered crickets?
Bugs. Yeah.
Seattle?
Blaylock. We had Blaylock ate it at a
Mr.
game.
Blaylock. Yes.
Maybe they decided that wasn't quite disgusting enough.
Yeah. Oh, I believe it's an item sold at the
So
concession
let's
stand.
serve something that looks like a leprechaun's genitals for
How do you buy the crickets? By the pound? By the dozen? How
No,
does
I
that
don't
work?
know about any of this. What is this? thing?
again, and
We can get to the bottom of this, though, Professor.
they call this Mariners blue. Maybe
Yeah.
my eyes are messed up, but that clearly looks green.
Nah, it
to
looks
me.
like green on the screen at least. Yeah.
Maybe it's blue and then you fry it and it becomes green. I don't know. But
Save that image.
I
'Cause,
feel like they need a lot of work.
Yeah,
in
we
Jersey
can
bringing
get to the
Seattle
bottom of
food
that. The new president of business operations, named to that role this year after being the marketing director for many, many years, is one.
So he's the guy who's to blame for this? Because if so,
It's
I would like to
Kyle
dig into
Martinez's
that.
brother.
Jersey's
Oh, it's
brother.
Jersey's brother is the
Jersey's brother.
president
Brother
of
of
business
business
operations for
Well,
the
then ask Jersey's brother what's the hell's going on with the green corn dog.
Is it even good?
My
Is
first question.
You have to ask him next.
Maybe it
time.
was his idea. I don't know. Could we offend him at the very top of the interview if we have him on?
You have to ask
Very
him.
possible. Yeah, if you
You
get
have
him
to have
on,
him on and just show this picture.
inquiring minds want to know about the
green
green
corn
corn
dog.
dog.
What the hell is this?
Unbelievable. All right, that's number 3. Number 2.
Not to be outdone, because Major League Baseball, obviously, really an area of excellence in terms of repulsive stadium food. But we also have the minor leagues to consider, and in this category, the minor leagues have done an excellent job. And we are shouting out one in particular, that is the Kalamazoo Growlers, which are part of a summer college league, not to be outdone, have come up with what is known as a scat dog. Now, for those of you who are wondering what this hell this is,
Looks like,
is a hot, we'll get to that.
yeah.
This is a hot dog served between 2 brownies, topped with ice cream, topped with whipped cream, topped with sprinkles and a maraschino cherry. And I'm sorry, content warning and whatnot. I firmly believe this is intentionally made to look like a dog turd. Like,
Literally, that's what I thought.
between the presentation and the picture, the fact that it's called a scat dog, I think someone intentionally, first of all, hot dog wrapped in a brownie, wrapped in ice cream. Who the hell has ever eaten a hot dog and thought, you know what I really need? Some ice cream on top of it. With sprinkles and a cherry. I want a sundae around my hot dog. Who the hell thought of that?
The creation of a madman, obviously.
And secondly, I think very intentionally this was made to look like a turd. I think this is probably served in a plastic bag that you reach your hand in and turn inside out. And I think if you're like Defo and myself, if you saw this thing, you would squash it into your neighbor's yard while pretending to pick it up.
Well, that's exactly what I was thinking, that this looks like something you should pick up with one of those blue bags.
Yes,
and by the
exactly.
way, who's the
Where,
guy
like I
that
said,
came
where
up
you
with
do the
that?
dance where you turn it inside out and you put it on your arm,
Yes.
and then you reach down and you do the bag, so you unfurl the bag. That's what this looks like. This should be served.
And unable to actually touch your toes, you abandon everybody that's watching, and
And
you look around first, and everybody that's watching knows that there's no way that you managed to reach.
And
the
let's
ground.
be honest, if Lubie is walking Wolf and Wolf did this
Yeah,
on one of the neighbors' lawns, he's like, what the hell have you been eating? What's wrong with you?
exactly. How did you get into the fridge?
So, okay,
Yeah, that's a wild one. And served on a bed of grass, I mean, it really has that impact. But
I think they just took the promotional figure on a bed of grass. I don't again.
So is it an actual hot dog? Like, 'cause sometimes cakes.
It's,
will
yes,
look
it's
like
no, it's a
burger.
hot dog. According to their
All right.
website, it's a hot dog.
Okay, there's no reason for this.
This is,
Again, it's because someone wanted to make a food item that looked like a dog.
Look, in college, I was high and it made some weird creations, but they always feels like a waffle with ice cream. Like it was seen with syrup. Like it would always
I
work.
didn't feel like a waffle and ice cream is that weird, to be
But
honest.
I hadn't heard of it until then. Like
They have waffle cones. How different can it be?
the chicken and waffles is.
You would mix stuff. That you didn't
Yes, I
always
get it.
have. But what is this?
I have no
would ever do
idea.
this.
Well, that would encourage me. What was the name of the team? To
Kalamazoo
just-
Growlers of Kalamazoo, Michigan.
And I can't imagine. I mean, what does it say about the citizens of the city if this is actually one of their major sellers?
Hey, I want the dog turd dog. Yeah.
All right, that's number 2. Topping the list.
Take
Where's
number
ballpark
1
food?
is actually not new for 25, but it is the all-time heavyweight champion of disgusting stadium food, and is apparently very popular and is still served almost a decade after its creation. And that is, congratulations to the city of Cleveland for what is known as the slider dog, one of the more popular items served by the Cleveland Guardians. And if you're thinking to yourself, that kind of looks like a chili dog topped with macaroni and cheese and then topped again with Fruit Loops, that is exactly what it is. So, for all the people of Cleveland who apparently cannot get enough of hot dogs topped with macaroni and cheese, topped with Fruit Loops.
Oh, get out of here.
Congratulations. You have created the heavyweight champion of disgusting food. Just the thought of this makes my stomach queasy, honestly.
Yeah.
Just the concept of eating Fruit Loops without meals, without milk, so they're hard and crunchy and tear the hell out of the top of your palate, and then combining that with the savory flavors of macaroni and cheese and a chili dog. I think this is enough to make Guy Fieri puke.
Oh, and it's a chili dog. It's not just a dog. It's a
so
chili
there's
dog.
chili under there too.
Chili dog
with
macaroni and cheese topped with Fruit Loops.
What kind of bun? No, I wouldn't matter at that point. Now, is this right next to is Ohio? I don't consider them to be an overwhelmingly liberal state. I mean, is it next to the legal marijuana dispensary at the ballpark?
I think we've solved, actually, and I don't want to get into politics, but I think we've solved one of the political mysteries, that if you, for recreation at baseball games, are eating hot dogs topped with Fruit Loops, then eating your neighbor's pets in Springfield actually starts to make a little bit of freaking sense. Like if you're a Haitian and you just moved to this country and you see white people eating hot dogs typed with Fruit Loops, having the neighbor's cat for dinner really doesn't seem that far out there, honestly.
Yeah, you're right.
And you're like, your neighbor's breath comes over. If your neighbor comes over and yells at you about chasing around their cat, and their breath smells like Fruit Loops and chili dogs, well, then your breath full of cat isn't going to sound that much worse.
Like salty sweet's a thing, but Fruit Loops are not only sweet, but they have like a fruity sweet flavor.
But again,
I
don't even know how you combine these.
Have you ever eaten like a handful of Captain Crunch?
Yeah, they're really hard.
It destroys the top of your mouth.
Yeah. Rather have a couple of jawbreakers.
They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats.
They are.
Makes more
they're
sense
eating those.
in light of this. Yeah, I mean, if you're eating this if this has been a stadium food for a decade.
Oh my God.
If Kamala had fired back with this picture, she would
then eating your neighbor's chihuahua starts to make a lot of sense.
Like, what is this?
All right, excellent. A big board of weird new ballpark food going to be introduced to MLB in 2025, and including an old staple here, which
again, the heavyweight champion of the world of disgusting stuff.
Oh yeah, nothing to beat that. The ice cream hot dog thing was pretty rough. I mean, it was actually really rough,
especially from an appearance standpoint.
But this is, I don't even know how you
get the ice cream thing with the hot dog number 2 reminded me of when in the lunchroom, the cafeteria at school, they used to put that bucket and you would throw all of your waste in there. And then somebody would be dared, or there would be a wager whether or not somebody would actually drink that, because you'd pour the milk in there and the corn and
I get it.
Sloppy Joes, whatever. It all went in this one can.
It makes a lot more sense than Fruit Loops and freaking chili dogs. Again, like in your drunkest, I'm gonna get a can of Hornbelt chili and make some creations. I pretty much guarantee you the one thing you didn't do is like pour a bunch of Fruit Loops.
I was never a big Fruit Loop guy. All right, excellent stuff as always, Professor. Good luck with all your plays today. Outstanding analysis on the college basketball games. I do think it's going to be dicier turf than we saw yesterday. Where they were still, I mean,
Very chalk.
16-0. It's no great distinction to have gone 15-1 yesterday, is it, Professor? What do you say? It's straight up.
No lines. I mean,
No lines. No, just in a bracket. I ended up
obviously
losing that one
the
game, and that
Clemson
was it.
McNeese State. Well, I can tell you again, and it was really close this time, but always stay away from the underdog that the entire world likes, which yesterday was San Diego over Michigan. Everybody was picking San Diego over Michigan. So that might have been some people's stumble there, although against the spread, really. Oh, and we had them because we liked them with the points because of their offensive efficiency. But Drake over Missouri was a fairly substantial upset. So 14-2 would have been very doable.
Right.
But 15-1 certainly not out of reach.
No, it was. I mean, if I hit it, then it
Diesel
was
did
another.
It was very chalky. Like that's the thing. It was a chalky.
There were a couple of
your only loss was Yale.
Toss-ups. Yeah, there were
Yale, by the way, humiliated the good name of one C. Montgomery Burns. Mr. Burns Simpson.
I'm sure you were thrilled with that. Were you watching it up at the Polo Club in Wellington? Were you up there with your Yale's? No?
Yes, we had a Yale viewing party. Celebrated Skull and Bone.
Yes, let's play a couple of chuckers and we'll watch some college basketball. What do you say, Biff? I say, get the bleep out of here. All right, Professor, we love you, man. We'll talk to you in a few minutes here on Bury Your Bookie. Hopefully, bury him again. And thanks so much for being with us.
All right, you have a great one, boys.
The Professor, ladies and gentlemen. We have to run, Lubie. We'll see you later on at the track. That's always great.
Yes.
Had a couple of schnorrers coming out. I sort of implied that we might be able to slide them a free lunch. What do you think? Do I have to back off on that?
I don't know. I've never had anyone go. So you guys always have people come out.
This wasn't by design or anything. A guy just told me, "Hey, I'm coming out there. I haven't seen you for a while. So, where are you going to be?"
You're welcome. I don't promise anything. And our table's our table. I order for us for the show, so they can do whatever they want. And
we can probably schnorr them a drink. Yeah.
We will definitely say, look, they're with us, and it usually goes far. I have no problem doing that. But yes, they want to start pinching off the table. The table's for the screen.
Oh no, the table. These aren't poachers.
I rarely eat the food that's on the table. So, but yes, they're welcome. We all comers, and Joe and Dave have been great to us. They've been great to us there, and I'm sure they'll get taken care of very, very favorably.
Probably sit down, order the prime rib or whatever. All right, excellent. We will see you later. And everybody, thanks for tuning in. Good luck with all your plays today. We'll have a lot more analysis through the tournament. And our congratulations. If you're going to, not even a tout, not some bracketologist, Jim Larinaga giving you Drake, people.
Yeah, we can do.
Money line. He didn't get into the gambling aspect of it, but you had to think, wow, if anybody knew what he was talking about, it was going to be the great Jim Larinaga. So we were happy to have brought you that on the show this week, and we'll have more of the same coming up next week. And maybe even a little bit of improvement. Who the hell knows? All right, see you next time as we leave you now that.
The time.
It's 9:11.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.